This completely changes how we view the Dallas Cowboys, as after last night's tie against the Green Bay Packers, there were a lot of negative disappointments. However, there were a couple players that definitely played well and deserve some more playing time. We'll talk about them and what's next for the Dallas Cowboys all on today's show. Welcome into Cowboys Digest, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. Before we get going, gotta let you know something. We got some openings here at Digest Media for a couple of channels in Texas. Got a Rangers baseball channel, potentially some openings with the Texans channel as well. So if you're looking to break in here to the sports media industry, you can get the link in the description. Go put your name, your information, check us out, and maybe you could be where I am right now, hosting some shows for Digest Media. Let's talk about last night's game a little bit. The Cowboys and Packers tied, which, first of all, I think in American sports should be illegal. With that being said, though, it's way better than a loss, I guess you could put. Honestly, throughout the first quarter, I truly thought the Cowboys were going to get 40-0 instead of 40-40. So I'll take what I can get, but there was a lot of things that I didn't like about last night's game, but in the same breath, I think there was a lot of things that I actually did like about last night's game, and I choose to focus on the positives on today's show and most of the time on the show, because if you're not going to be positive about your team, what's the point about watching them? So with that being said, let's talk about some of the most positive players and kind of some guys that I think really made some strides yesterday. And this all comes from an article from A to Z Sports. Mauricio Rodriguez posted this with a headline saying, Cowboys rookie leads new pecking order at an important position as coaching staff looks for answers to defensive woes. And I'm going to stop and pause here because this headline is great, but I think it's a little bit misleading because he labels a Cowboys rookie as a new leader in the pecking order in what would be a defensive end position. However, I think that it might be someone else on the defensive end position that should be getting praise and should be the guy to get the majority of the snaps on that defensive edge rushing unit. With that being said, though, we'll talk about the rookie first, and we'll go with Donovan Ezeiruaku. So Ezeiruaku was one of the better edge rushers in all of college football last year. In fact, he had the second most sacks in all of NCAA football, the most in Power 4. He was a great player at Boston College. There's no other way to put it. He has had a less than ideal start to his NFL career for a multitude of reasons, and we're going to kind of talk about them throughout today. James Houston will also talk about him. I think he deserves a lot more praise than really what he is getting. So with that being said, let's first talk about the stats here for Ezeiruaku and what's going on with him. So he had not played a lot of snaps through the first 3 weeks, had in fact no stats against the New York Giants. Last week he had 2 tackles against the Bears, although we'll show you in just a second. His pressure weight was literally 0. But last night, 5 total tackles, 4 of those solo, 1 assisted. He had a couple of times where he was in the backfield, inches away from a sack, just never got the hand on it. Now, the one thing that I will say is the one big tackle that you point to is getting Matthew Gold in the backfield and then immediately punching him in the face and getting a 15-yard penalty. So there's not really a positive takeaway when you immediately get 15 yards mocked against you because you can't control your emotions. Now, before I go too much farther, I do want to ask you a question. Who impressed you from last night's game for the Dallas Cowboys? I want you to let me know that in the comments section. Who was somebody that impressed you for last night's Packers versus Cowboys game? Let me know down in the comments section. I think there's a lot of things to talk about with Donovan Ezeiruaku, and the prowess is there with him. He has a lot of great things, but against the Bears, it was a 0% pass rush win. So I don't think at this time the Cowboys are going to be like, oh yes, we're going to play him a majority of the snaps. But you'd be wrong, because in fact he had the largest snap percentage last night out of everybody in the defensive edge rushing unit. Mauricio Rodriguez has this saying, for the first time this season, Sam Williams didn't lead the position group in snaps. Instead, he fell to third place as second-round rookie Donovan Ezeiruaku led the way with a 48% count. Dante Fowler closely followed at second with a 41% count. Funny enough, though, James Houston, he bumped his increase to 20%, but still was not even in the top 3 in terms of guys getting on the field. So an intriguing thing for sure, but I look at this and I start to look at the defensive coordinating of Matt Eberflus once again, because I've said this time and time again, and I know I'm being a dead horse at this point, but Matt Eberflus is a horrendous defensive coordinator. He is a horrendous defensive coordinator and needs to be fired legit now. Like, I don't know. There's no reason to wait. There's no reason to say, oh, maybe we'll get better. There's no reason. Like, you have to end it now. Now, speaking of James Houston, want to a little bit about him here real quick. Mauricio Rodriguez once again saying, quote, also noteworthy was James Houston's rise to over 20% of the snap count. NBC color analyst Chris Collinsworth noted he might need to play more. The preseason darling forced and recovered a fumble for the lone takeaway of the game, end quote. And that was a pretty adamant statement across Cowboys Twitter, was that James Houston needs to have more of a presence on the field, not just from Chris Collinsworth, but the entirety of Cowboys Twitter was saying, listen, I know that James Houston was not the expectation to be a top guy on a defensive edge group when we signed him, especially because when we did, we had Micah Parsons. But with that all being said, he has been spectacular. He's been great. I don't understand what we're waiting for there's no reason to just put him out there on the field. Let him go, let him run. I mean, if you talk about the PFF rankings from last night's game, guess who was the number one guy by a substantial margin? Oh, that's right. It was James Houston, 89.3 on the PFF ranking. That's crazy. And he's not playing a majority of snaps. Now, Trevon Diggs had a great time. Jadeveon Clowney had a good time again with Jadeveon. I think we're going to see more of him throughout the season. It was just his first game in the entire NFL season, not just with the Cowboys. Malik Hooker, who did get injured late in the game, and then Wanya Thomas as well there as well. So James Houston, though, definitely deserves some more credit, and I believe should be on the field more often than not if you're going to ask me. Now, let's also go to the offensive line. Talked a lot about the defensive line, but Nate Thomas had a fantastic game last night as well, and I think he honestly might be in the position to where when this offensive line becomes fully healthy, when Tyler Booker comes back, I still think I might play Nate Thomas in a lot of situations. Now, he was getting some good reps behind Terrence Steele, and then when Tyler Guyton went down, he was taking that position, and now they're kind of using him as a guard to rotate, and he can play tackle too, so they're rotating him out with Booker's position as well, but he was really fantastic last night. I liked a lot from what I saw from him, and I do think that he actually is fighting for a spot on the offensive line, not just now, but even when everybody is healthy. If you look at the stats last night, he had 13 snaps at left tackle and 4 snaps at right tackle, and he did not allow a single QB pressure on 12 pass blocking attempts. Now, obviously, left tackle, right tackle, you're going to run into a defensive presence in Micah Parsons at some point, right? Well, that's where probably one of his best moments came from. So here says, again from Mauricio Rodriguez, the young lineman had some big moments, including beating Micah Parsons in pass protection without help. For a team that's preaching competition, it will be hard to keep Thomas away from the starting lineup. I honestly think this guy deserves more snaps than he's getting right now. I mean, you talk about the snaps that he had last night, you're talking less than 50%. If you are allowing 0% pressure and you are one-on-oneing and winning against Micah Parsons in pass protection, you deserve more snaps. I really think the Cowboys might have a problem, not with the injuries, not with the coaching, but more with who they're playing, like who gets these snaps, because they're almost so contingent on saying, well, we got James Houston on a cheap contract, so he doesn't deserve the snaps. We're not going to play him. Oh, well, Nate Thomas, he wasn't supposed to be a starter, so we're not going to give him the snaps. You play the best guy. I think it's so funny how they do this with some of these players like Houston and Thomas, where, oh, we're not going to give him the snaps, even though, it's just the way that is. And yet, Jaden Blue, like, oh, no, he didn't need to play. Why do we need Jaden Blue? We have Miles Sanders, who, by the way, got hurt last night, and now we have Hunter Lipke. So if Jaden Blue is not active next week and Miles Sanders is hurt, I will severely start to question the Cowboys' confidence in Jaden Blue whatsoever. But they have some interesting coaching techniques and specifically in the way they play these players, but I'm not a head coach of the NFL team, and Brian Schottenheimer is, so I got to just see what he does. One guy I do want to mention on the back end of this video is Reddy Stewart. Had a bad penalty last night, but also was really, really good, still having 60+% of the snaps at that nickelback position over Deron Bland. I think in a lot of ways, it's nice to have Reddy because Deron looked good, and I want him out there for a majority of the snaps. But with his 2-year injury history now on the feet, I am 100% good and okay with a Reddy Stewart being there and taking, I would say, I'm not going to say a majority of the snaps. I want Deron Bland to be kind of flipping the position. Right now, I believe Reddy Stewart has 66% of the snaps. Deron Bland on the opposite side had like 30-something, like 30-something. I don't think he had all 34%. I think he had like 31. There was, didn't play nickelback sometimes. But either way, With that being said, I think it's great to see that. So definitely something to look for and something to note on Reddy Stewart. Mauricio Rodriguez here saying, quote, "Will the Cowboys rotate their outside cornerbacks following Deron Bland's return to the field? Stewart appears set at nickel, logging a 66% snap count, the highest among Dallas cornerbacks," which is intriguing because that includes Trevon Diggs, who, as we know, had a very good PFF ranking in this past game as well. So kind of funny enough, they like Reddy Stewart. Let's just put it that way. They love Reddy Stewart. So yeah, that's what we got for you on today's video, though. Let me know again in the comment section, is there anybody that impressed you from last night's game that maybe you didn't talk about in today's video? I know there's a couple of guys. I mean, obviously George Pickens is a guy you got to talk about, but maybe some surprising guys that surprised that came out and did some cool things. So you let me know that in the comment section, and we'll see you next time here on Cowboys Digest. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Peace out.